അപ്പോൾ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ you do not need to have $1 million ഒന്നും ക്യാഷ് ആയിട്ട് കയ്യിൽ വേണ്ട. You need as low as $100,000 in your account or as equity to start your journey into building a multi-million-dollar property portfolio here in this country, Australia. എൻ്റെ പേര് രാകേഷ്. I'm the CEO of Coastline Assets Buyers Agency. We help Malayali working professionals in Australia build a property portfolio over a period in time so that it can build wealth that can outpace the inflation. It can then fund towards your passive income. It can then reduce your own dependency to the job that you are in. Before we get into it, just to be clear, this is a financial advice alla. There is no one solution for everyone. Ellavarudeyum situation different aanu. Everyone are in different phase of their life, different income levels, different risk appetite, different age group, different financial goals. So this is a very generic property focused analysis and a rough financial illustration, right? Let's call it that way, to how to help you model your property portfolio. And again, idoru theory alla. This is something that I had considered myself in my investment journey. Adupole thanne ende clients inum we have worked with more than 35 families in Australia right now. Ivarde ellam journey we had used this modeling for helping them enable that property portfolio planning decisions. Let's imagine that, or let's assume that you are a family with annual income of about $180,000. And you have $3,000 monthly. You are very comfortable to park it aside to contribute towards properties, right? നിങ്ങളുടെ അടുത്ത് ഒരു $100,000 ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റും കയ്യിലുണ്ട്. You are ready with that amount in hand, right? And this is all you need to get started and keep moving. And I want you to think property investing like a business, right? Now what happens in a business? You start small. You build things, you build the foundation, and then you keep growing, right? Always when you do something, be ready to make the next move and be prepared for that, or make room for your future growth while you are doing anything at your starting stages. That's how I want you to see this journey. Appo ee $100,000 kondu you can buy a $600,000 property in the first year, right? I've considered it as property purchase year 0. Let's say 2026 il ningal $600,000 property vaangunu. Adinu ningal aaga deposit aayittu kodukkendathu $100,000 aanu. I have assumed 90% LVR, and then you're putting in the 10% deposit plus LMI plus stamp duty, all of those things. $540,000 is the loan that you have in this time, and you will continue keeping that loan. You are not going to pay off the loan. You will only pay the interest on this property moving forward. This property has to generate about $90,000 equity in year 1. What that means is you should be investing in a market which generates about 15% annual growth, right? Something that we call as a hot market or a booming market. The instant equity release in the market low to invest in Shramikya. And also ensuring that your net cash flow would $8,000 annually kail undengil, right? Which means 8,000 is what, about like $600 or $700 a month. If you have, you can pretty much hold this property after all the expenses of your interest payments and the property management, land tax, insurance, whatever that is, and after getting all the negative gearing benefits back, right? $8,000 is what you need. This is what would happen in the first year of investment. Now you have $90,000 equity ready. Use that equity, release this equity and refinance it and put it as a deposit for your next investment property. So in year 2, in 2027, you can then purchase a $500,000 property, right? So you don't need to have where a deposit kayil ninnu venda. All you need is the equity from the previous house. You will then take a $450,000 loan, right? ഇതിൽ നിങ്ങൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കേണ്ട ഒരു കാര്യം എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, you guys are on a family income of $180,000. ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ഇൻകം ലെവലിലുള്ള ഫാമിലീസിന് generally banks would have a borrowing of 5 to 6 times of your borrowing, right? Which means ഒരു $1 to $1.2 million would be the very rough borrowing ഈ ഒരു ഫാമിലിക്ക് ഉണ്ടാവുക. അതിനകത്ത് ഓൾറെഡി $600,000 ലോൺ നിങ്ങൾ എടുത്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞു പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി നമ്പർ 1. Now, if you're buying a $500,000 again, സോ ഫസ്റ്റ് പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി നിങ്ങൾ പേഴ്സണൽ നെയിമിലാണ് വാങ്ങിയത്. രണ്ടാമത്തെ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടിയും നിങ്ങൾ പേഴ്സണൽ നെയിമിൽ വാങ്ങിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ദർ ആർ ഹൈ ചാൻസസ് ദാറ്റ് യുവർ ബോറോയിങ് വുഡ് ടച്ച് എ സീലിംഗ്. നിങ്ങൾ മൂന്നാമത്തെ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടിയിലോട്ട് പോകണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഈ 180,000 എന്നുള്ളത് യു വിൽ ഹാവ് ടു ഇൻക്രീസ് ദ ഇൻകം റൈറ്റ് ബൈ $250,000, so $300,000 for getting another borrowing. അതിന് ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ജനറലി നാച്ചുറലി ഇറ്റ് ടേക്സ് മേ ബി 5 years or more than that to increase salaries to that limits. അപ്പോൾ അതിന് ജനറലി വാട്ട് ഈസ് റെക്കമെൻഡഡ് ഈസ് ടു ഇവാലുവേറ്റ് ആൾട്ടർനേറ്റ് സ്ട്രക്ചേഴ്സ്. Do not jump ahead and buy your second property into personal name and then lock your ceiling. We can separate discussion in itself. It'll topic on it. You can buy in structures outside of your personal name. You can buy it in trust, right? Like family trust or the discretionary family trust is probably an alternate structure to consider. അപ്പോൾ ഇതിനകത്ത്, so in my overall evaluation you could see that I am also proposing different structures to buy, not just in personal, and it is again എന്താ പറയുക ഒരു റെപ്യൂട്ടഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു അക്കൗണ്ടന്റ് ഇവാലുവേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് റെക്കമെൻഡ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട സിനാരിയോ ആണ് if the structures are feasible in your case or not. So what I'm saying is there are multiple properties that we would recommend you to buy in structures outside of your personal name. It could be SMSF, it could be trust, whatever that is. But again, I'm not qualified to give you any recommendations at this stage, but this has to be evaluated by someone who is really qualified and experienced in managing such structures. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ 500,000 property you are buying it using the equity from the previous property, and that would also generate another instant the short term equity growth of 15%, right? So this time in the end of second year you have $165,000 equity, which is the equity that has been generated from the $600,000 plus the $500,000, right? So now use this equity for your third property, right? So you would then be able to buy a 750, like much higher bucket level property, price bracket level property, using these equity gains from the first two properties. And all three properties together would then generate a cumulative equity of $277,000, which is a reasonable budget for you to then invest into multiple properties in the future, right? So that's how this calculation has been developed. Now here you can see the three properties. The initial three properties is fully നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു foundation set ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ്, where the focus will be to invest in high capital growth, optimum cash flow, ഒരു capital growth focused ആയിട്ടുള്ള low risk മാർക്കറ്റിൽ ഒരു ഫൗണ്ടേഷൻ സെറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് ടാർഗറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നിങ്ങളുടെ മോസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ ടൈം യുവർ cash flow would get a bit kind of stretched in the initial three properties. And then the future properties, right? The future like properties number 4, 5 and 6, then you are entering into an accumulation phase. You have a lot of equity in your hand. You are now quickly accumulating it, right? All three properties have been now estimated in this calculation. Year 3 തന്നെ, so 2026 start ചെയ്ത ഒരാൾക്ക് probably 2029 തന്നെ you could probably buy 3 more properties and then complete your property portfolio. Like this is again a very best case scenario that we are talking in. Need not be exactly this. ഒരു ക്രിസ്റ്റൽ ബോൾ ഒന്നുമില്ല ആരുടെ കയ്യിലും. It can go അങ്ങോട്ടും ഇങ്ങോട്ടും ഒക്കെ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാം കാര്യങ്ങൾ. But the essence is, and if you see that the cash flow is not changing here because the focus on these properties will be more on cash flow, equity manufacturing, where you do not feel a lot of stretch in yourself for further holding your cash flow. So how does all these numbers work? From all these 6 properties that you have purchased, right, you have already accumulated properties worth $3.4 million, right? ഇതിന് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആകെ വേണ്ടി വന്ന ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ്, ആസ് വി സെഡ്, വി ആർ പുട്ടിങ് ഇൻ 10% deposits. We'll pay LMIs, we'll happily pay LMIs, right, and we'll also pay stamp duties and all of it. $480,000 ആണ് ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് വേണ്ടത്. അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾ കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് കോൺട്രിബ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്തത് $100,000. The rest of the deposit came from equity. ഇതിനകത്ത് ലോൺ എടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്, out of all the properties, about $2.5 million debt is what you have taken. You will happily take the debt, right? These are good debts for you. These debts are going to work for you, right? And you have also created within the initial 3 to 4 years, you have built an equity of $532,000, which has already reinvested into real estate market. You have not taken the money back. You have reinvested these $532,000 to the so-called number, right, for $80,000. Yeah. So now, if you also look into it, you also do not need to have a bigger cash flowing കാര്യങ്ങളും വേണ്ട. ഒരു $36,000 annually ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തന്നെ, which is exactly what I said, about $3,000 monthly നിങ്ങൾ മാറ്റി വെച്ചാൽ തന്നെ, you will be able to comfortably hold these properties. And also keep in mind that your cash flow position will only improve as you grow, right? കാരണം your rents will always increase. Rent increase ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ your cash flow will improve. So your starting position of the cash flow is generally the worst scenario. Over in period, it gets better and better. Now, what we are assuming here is 8%. Let's assume all these properties will grow by annually 8% for the period of time that you're holding. 15 വർഷമാണ് property hold ചെയ്യുന്നതിൽ 15 next 15 years annual growth rate is 8%. ഓസ്ട്രേലിയയുടെ national average എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് 7% അടുത്താണ് last 30 years. So if you do some great research and invest in the right market, at least the minimum that you can expect is an 8% growth. This growth rate, so this will be your end of the whole period. After 15 years, you will be having a property portfolio worth $9.3 million. From this, you would then decide which properties to sell. So for example, let's say ആദ്യത്തെ ഈ 3 properties you have decided to sell, and the remaining 3 properties, okay, now you have decided to hold these 3 properties, right? ഈ വിറ്റ properties of course you will have to pay the debt of the properties. You will also have to pay the CGTs, and this is what you will be left with. About $2.7 million is what you will get cash after selling the property. Use this money to pay the debt for the remaining 3 properties that you're holding. ഒരു $1.5 million ആയിരിക്കും അന്നത്തെ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഈ 3 പ്രോപ്പർട്ടീസിന്റെ കടം. വിറ്റ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടീസിന്റെ പ്രോഫിറ്റ് യൂസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് pay back all the debts. Till then, don't worry about you holding that debt. Let the debt stay in the market and grow work for you. And now imagine what your end position will be, right? നിങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ ഞാൻ ഈ ഒരു green കളറിൽ highlight ചെയ്തത്, you will have some cash in hand. After all this transaction, you will have some extra $1.2 million cash in hand, which you can use pay your principal place of residence in the loan അടച്ചു തീർക്കാനോ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ go for a vacation, gift yourself some luxury treatment for yourself for all the good work that you have done. And you also have 3 other properties that you're holding, which would be about $3.9 million worth asset is what you will be holding at that point in time. Assets will then generate the passive income. നമ്മൾ ഒരു 4% passive income assume ചെയ്താൽ പോലും, it will then give you $156,000 annual income back into your own family that can then compensate for the salary that you are dependent on from the employer. അന്ന് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ജോലി നിർത്തണമെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചാലും you have an option, because then the property is then now funding your lifestyle. I hope this gives you a fair bit of idea in terms of how to plan things moving forward. Happy investing. All the very best.